Greetings. So I'm doing a recording. Doing a recording.
Greetings.
Kind of
folks. Thanks for joining when you join.
Visiting.
All right, so I'm doing
my Sibyls,
hopefully a quick live
elementals,
this morning.
rocks, trees,
Part of
and theories video.
I'm sitting out on ball too.
Because
but I started
so much of it got cut out. They keep getting really cut out. So there's several things to say to that. One is that happens when you know you're on the right path. There's we'll see this show up. We'll talk about that real quick before going into the redo, so to speak. Without references, but there are some out there, and I can get to those. But there's information that this is Sibylline, right? This is the part of the Sibylline. This is part of what are called Sibyls, prophetesses, those that have quote unquote foresight, and that is something I said in that video. One of the things that shows up and has been showing up in the last 5 to 7 years is seeking out people with certain information and certain knowledge. Now, you might have heard this from other groups of people, but not only seeking out them, but also keeping that information limited. So you will see there are some people who have tons of information, but they don't have a lot of followers. Or the information that is getting out that does have tons of followers, it's staying strictly on this mainstream. It's not mated to the mainstream like news or information. In some parts it has, but not really, especially when it comes to those who are indigenous. So I'm going to speak on that too. Maybe this will be a completely different video, but there are things that I said in this video that didn't get recorded, and so the live is going, but it's missing some stuff, so I wanted to kind of fill that in. But when it comes to I don't like it when I do that. Oh, okay. So that is part of the Sibyls path, so to speak. They will be censored, silenced, messed with, all kinds of things. But from what the Great Mother has shown me and other things is that part of the help for these Sibyls is their kind of seclusiveness, meaning remote areas of living, remote ways of thinking, kind of not as mainstream. You will see that show up. So those are other ways that you know you're a Sibyl, but it can get really, I think I tried to say this in one of my other videos, but basically instead of witch hunts, they have secret, I want to steal a word from Harry Potter, an auror or an orator, the one who goes and is it an auror? An auror? Anyhow, the one who goes and looks for other, they were the ones who looked for the ones who were against Harry Potter. But this is basically those going to seek out those who, would be against the baddies. And not necessarily against the baddies, but have an attitude or a way of seeing that is flipped from the baddies. You'll see that about Sibyls. So, I'm going to listen, I'm going to pause, and then listen, and then fill in where it needs to be filled in from the live so that I can post this one and not have any cutouts.
And then we're going to elementals and then rocks and rocks formations and some theories I have behind that. Have entered into an era where two major things have happened. One is the education and the information.
Funny, I didn't pause it. I thought I had paused it. Okay, so Sibyls, elementals, rocks, trees, and theories, right? So I gave you a little bit right now about Sibyls, but also what I'd said in that video is there are two major things happening right now in this era. One is the awakening, the remembrance, the even knowledge and information about Sibyls and the Great Mother, and their being the first. So one is the information and the other is their being the first, meaning the first teachers, the first temple builders, all the information. And this is something that will be shown, is that the great ones that we have been taught, we will find out that they were taught by great ones that were women, predominantly women. And if they weren't women, they had a clear recognition of the balance between the two, male and female. There is an equality, at least, I say at least, but there's a recognition that the woman and the male are, I say the woman's a little bit above. We go by like polarity and that type of thing. We need the recognition that there is equanimity. The man is not above the woman. He would not be here if it wasn't for her. And that is also coming into the energies right now. Just recognition about these things. Okay, I talk about foreseers. So, Sibyls are foreseers, meaning not necessarily like look into a crystal ball and see the future, although those are a type of Sibyl. I'm talking about those who are able to look into where we're at, what the energies are, how the education is, how the religion is, how certain structures are set in, and able to kind of foresee where it's going. For example, the last couple years, there are plenty of people, you could call them Sibyls, prophets, seers, gurus, medicine people who could foresee what was coming. And here we are in it. Now there's a lot of trouble getting into hospitals, and there's a whole thing now with the medical system. A lot of people saw that. You don't have to be psychic to see that stuff, but you are able to kind of see past things. That's what a Sibyl is. A Sibyl, and those who would get that name or names that are close to it, that's what they're able to do. And then there's also like a communication with animals and trees and the land. And so even with food and certain spiritual connections, like, I don't know if some of you noticed, how our fruits and vegetables have changed in the last couple of years, right? How they are just different. So these would be other instances of Sibyls. It's not just tarot readers, it's not just psychics, it's not just mediums, but those are included. And then the other names that come with it are like goddesses, right? Shaman, spirit, spiritualists, right? These are all the names that we'll hear when it comes to aka Sibyls and their magic, so to speak, or their abilities. Okay, so just to fill in another spot that got missed in the video, I was talking about men and cognitive dissonance, how we've been told that creation was created by a man when nature has shown us clearly that that isn't the case. And that I had just learned that men actually comes from the word menses, which goes all the way back to the moon and to the feminine. And these are things, I'm speaking about these things because these are things that were downloaded to me. Now, I have absorbed them from others that had been speaking about it that I haven't actually talked to, and so that information is out there, possibly because that's the other way Great Mother works and the earth works to communicate things. But just the information about the truth about the feminine divine. That's what the Sibyls are. And then I'm not sure if I go into this in that video, but one of the things that has been not recently downloaded to me, now I know why I've stuck with this information. So I'm still doing research as far as what my own genealogy is, but this is the downloaded message. I'm Khalifa. I am Khalifa. I am part of the California tribes. How? I don't know. I don't know how it's going to show up, but I already had figured it out just through the downloads and through my own information in my body, which is those folks that used to be in California were moved. And I'm talking about like thousands of years ago. But these people were moved. There's been this whole rearranging, but there's a reason why the information has come to me in the way that it has, and there's a reason why I feel the way I do about certain places. I'm remembering. That's what makes me a Sibyl, and this is what makes others a Sibyl. They are remembering. They don't have, quote unquote, I talked about this, receipts. Do I have proof of this? No. But guess what? There's two people on, and even when it came to studying the Orishas and the language, because one of the things that came through a few years ago was Orisha and Kachina. Orisha, Kachina. Orisha, Kachina. And if you look at the Kachinas, and then you look at the Orishas, it's like scary similar, okay? And then you start breaking down deities, and that also, they become similar. So the message was, the peoples here, not only did Africa tell me this, and I don't know if this came through, but when I went to Africa, the land told me, you're not from here. And I was like, no, this is Mama Africa. And she's like, you're not from here. And I was like, what? How is this possible? I don't understand. And then when I saw the peoples, I thought, wow, they look like us. Whereas through education, it kind of taught me like we look like them. But I felt differently. It felt like they look like us. And so she downloaded to me then the land of Africa, the planet, however you want to look at it, my memories, however you want to look at it, downloaded to me. Yeah, they look like you because you came over here. Your people came over here. And I still remember thinking, no. I don't know what maybe this is me telling myself this. Like, I didn't want to listen to that information because all of the structured information had told me I was from Africa. So I didn't want to believe that I wasn't. But she's always showing me. She's always showing me, like, I know for you in this moment right now, it sounds crazy. You even might sound crazy to somebody else saying it. Man, when 5 years ago, when I brought it to my aunt and my uncle, that we're indigenous, that we're not from Africa, you might as well have thought I told them I'm going to murder a bunch of people. It was horrible. And literally, I can't bring up that conversation. Even if it's not me, to that others are, it's a whole fight. Because there becomes a point when certain truths or certain possibilities are totally resisted because the quote unquote receipts or the proof hasn't shown up. The proof is showing up. Kumaro Ahau on YouTube, he's been saying it for years. There's the research guy, he's got tons of, I've posted some of their videos on here just showing, because those videos are literally affirmation to me that a lot of the downloads that I've been getting are correct. And I do believe it was Kumaro who did a video about how the language of the Khalifas can be found in parts of Africa, specifically pertaining to the Orishas. Like, that's happening. This is happening. So then we go into, I'll go back to the video, but we're just going to move into elementals. So what got caught up in the other one is I talked about Moses. And if you've seen some of my older videos, if you read any of the Sibyl books, you are aware that the last name Moses, it is a last name. There's a whole group of people in Yakima, Washington that have this last name. If you go by Hebrew, names that end with A, including Messiah, mean a female. So Mosiah is how you're supposed to correctly pronounce it. Mosiah, we are being shown, when it comes to elementals, we are being shown what the elementals look like, how they learned. So, for Mosiah, one of the elements was fire, the burning bush. They're literally showing us. This means of an elemental was able to communicate to Mosiah. Then, the parting of the waters. It's a water elemental. Then, earth elemental, the 40 days and 40 nights in the desert. That's earth elemental. Creating manna from, that is an earth elemental. And then we move into earth, fire, water, air. I do think there were things, if we talk about the spirit coming through, when we talk about Passover and passing over the houses, is that an air element? Air elemental? It sounds like it to me. Okay, so we're given examples of the elementals. Pillars of salt. We're given examples, but because of the way the story is told, we're not equating it that these people are working with elements. These are factions of alchemy and magic through the elements. So the download recently has been like, we start talking about it. We start talking about it and practicing. I've been practicing with water and air. I'm still working on the electricity one. Honestly, it's a little intimidating. But if you are a water elemental by the way water responds to you, if you are, and maybe you don't know which one you are. So you start practicing. Did I know I could work with electricity? No. Not until somebody brought it up to me, and then I started going backwards in my life and realized, oh my gosh, that's one of the elements I can work with. But I've just been passing it off. So air and water also can be, so you can be more than one, you can be all of them. And then we tap into ether. We tap into ether elementals. And this is where I think like flying and disappearing and reappearing and all of that is in there. And so when it comes to harp and other things that affect the weather, the earth, guess what? Guess where they got that from? The elementals. We already had it. We have it. So if we don't tell the people the magics and the abilities they have, but we create things from them, outside of them, that looks like it's outside of them, then they might be under the impression it's outside of them. That it's not them, that it's something miraculous. That's not what I was told. I was told it's us. And that this has been literally part of the whole all of it is to keep us from figuring out that we're elementals, and that we are the elementals. We are the receipts. We are the proofs, so to speak. So you can start lightly with water that's in a dish. See if you can move it and make it stand still. See if you can talk to the air, make the air come, or slow down and stop. And then, of course, you're always checking in with the planet, because you don't want to be, taking her energy without her giving it to you freely. Which it is given in abundance, but in the alchemy sense of like understanding there's another being who also has the power of elementals, right? And they're within her realm. So it's kind of like you check in with her. One of the things, so when it comes to like fire and electricity, you got to be careful with those, right? You got to be careful with all of them. You don't want to like flood anything, and you don't want to blow anything over or suffocate. Like you want to keep it within a balance. So I'll continue with electricity. I would guess that lightning would have a little bit to do with that, or at least the showing up of lightning in certain instances. Maybe being able to feel when lightning's going to strike or when a storm is coming. And then that bleeds into, or I should say, blends into your higher self, your sign, your the deities that you're connected to, where you might be in reincarnation. So these are all included. Okay. Okay, so the sap from pine trees can heal skin issues. And then I talked about tarweed. I meant to grab a flower, or at least take some pictures. I'll take some pictures and post them on the community so you can see what the tarweed flower looks like. And then also, I got this download and heard it after. So these two downloads I got and then heard them outside of me after. One is, so the trees, if you go and say hug a tree, or you're really sitting with a tree, or you're sitting at the base of the tree, you may notice that when you breathe in, the tree is actually breathing out. And then when you breathe out, the tree is breathing in. Which has been a whole, we are aware, or so they tell us, that what we exhale, the trees take in. What we take in is what the trees are. The trees exhale oxygen while they take in carbon dioxide. And then we breathe out carbon dioxide while we take in oxygen. So there's a symbiosis that happens, especially when you're sitting with the tree or you're hugging the tree, that almost happens automatically. Now, something that came through recently is that when other trees are getting cut down or burning, the trees that are living, because their roots are connected, do a mourning process. They go through mourning, which is kind of sad, but it's a way to honor the ancient tree energy. Okay, and then the other one is thistle. So two things with thistle. So thistle has a bright purple flower. So if you are aware of deities and energies, you can use the purple as part of it. Now, those flowers and the leaves can be a great protector, spell breaker, boundary maker, spiritual protector, because those little tiny pokey things, whew, they'll get you. You have to be very careful with thistle. Even though it's extremely healing, you got to do a lot of work to get that healing. So then right after I had gotten that download, and not right after, probably like a year later, and I had shared it with somebody that isn't really into plant medicine, but I heard it more recently about thistle. So, that is just a little recap of that part. Okay, then we're going to skip to, because I start going into rocks and trees, but I'm giving you a little bit of history about the area I live in, and it gets totally cut out. So what I was talking about is, and I've been trying to talk about this part, so let's hope it comes through in this video. But I'm starting to talk about the state and some of the laws that it has around people of color, specifically black, Negro people. And I'm trying to get away from the word black because I think Negro is more appropriate at this point, because that's what the indigenous people were also called. That when other people came from other places, they called them Negroes because of how dark they were. And then also American Indian, because we are the American Indians. Not indigenous Americans, but American Indians, American Aboriginals, okay? Anyhow, when it comes to this state, it was backed in a lot of its messed up laws because of a law that was written by the United States government, the Supreme Court. I'm going to find it. Hold on. Okay. March 6th of 1857. The United States Supreme Court in the Dred Scott versus Sanford rules that a Negro, whether enslaved or free, could not be an American citizen, and that the federal government had no power to regulate slavery in federal territories. This is the United States. Whether enslaved or free, could not be an American citizen. Has this been changed? I don't think it's been changed. And so in Oregon, one of the legislatures in 1954, so this is before the March 6th, bars testimony of Negroes, mulattoes, and Indians, or persons one half or more of Indian blood in the proceedings of a white person. So what I've noticed is that laws over the years have just been tweaked. They haven't been rewritten or undone. So to me, this links to what are called the TDA accounts. This also keeps getting cut out. So your Social Security number. It is called a trans direct account. Meaning, so during Roosevelt's time, he created the Social Security number, and it was to get America out of debt. And so how it worked is that you would get an account number, and when you were born, the government would take it upon themselves to start investing investing for you, so that by the time you were old enough, you had an account of money that you could access to get out of debt. They're real. That's what your Social Security number is, an account number. Just like your bank account number, okay? Now, these laws, I believe, are directly linked to the TDA accounts, because how can you invest in someone without having any backing? This is how they teach us today. Well, because when you're born, you have land and mineral rights, especially if you are part of the Americas. You have land and mineral rights. So they invest in your land and mineral rights, yours. Invest in it. They don't tell you about it. Your parents don't know about it. You keep doing the Social Security numbers. And this is where the 1%ers, or those 300 that have basically the investments of the world, the businesses of the world, it's where they get their money. It's based off of the value of the human. And it's not the value of the human, it's the value of what they are inherited to on this earth, which is land. And then what's on land? minerals and water. And people pay big money for that. This is why they gave a lot of land away and all these things, so that they could have rights and rules over the land. So I mention all this because there were a lot of rules in this state to keep people from buying land who were of color, mulatto, indigenous, Chinese. If they weren't white, they couldn't buy land. But when you go to look up the history here, there is a lot of indigenous American history, but as far as like if we're talking about how brown people, people who have been reclassified as African American were in this area, where is that history? It's hard to find. I'm wondering if certain documents have been disappeared, so to speak, because there were people here and they were run out. So where did they go is my question. Anyways, the reason why I brought up all that is because of the pictures of the land masses and rocks and such that I posted on the channel in relation to where I'm at. The name of that road, which is called Dead Indian Memorial Road, which, it bothers me that they call it that, but also maybe this helps us kind of remind us, like, the truth. But all of that area, those rocks, there were mounds there, there were pyramids there. We're close to Mount Shasta, Klamath, Crater Lake, and then I talked about that, and I got missed out a little bit too. So Crater Lake is a lake inside of this weird crater at the top of a mountain. Well, I think it's a tree. I think it's a fallen down tree. They can't find the bottom of Crater Lake. Is it because it's a fallen down tree and what used to be roots have completely rotted, and that went so deep into the earth? It's like, is that where all the water is? Is this where we're getting all our water? How much water keeps filling in? And do we have a great tree distributor of water? They can't find the bottom of it. Then is it a lake? But what is it? Okay, so this video is already about as long as the other one, and I don't want to take up too much time, but check out those pictures that I posted in the community of some of the rocks. But definitely coming down that mountain, there's a connection between Mount Ashland, Mount Shasta, and then also Crater Lake. You couldn't see it from there, but I would imagine there was probably a time you could get out of here. Is that the whole point? Now it's landed on my computer and it's like rubbing its back next to it. So I find that fascinating, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to like, this video is a recap of that video, but I'm going to do like a series of things because I'm all over the place. I want to do all kinds of videos about all kinds of things. I want to talk about all kinds of stuff, but I want to stay focused on the healing process, especially healing the mother womb, somatic work, and the nervous system. Definitely want to talk about the 9-day moon calendar. I'm going to get into that because I just discovered some stuff that I'm like, I think this is a whole nother psyops, just the calendar alone. Oh my gosh. Anyhow, and then the Sibyls. Okay, and then each week and each month we'll have a different kind of focal point. The Sibyls will always be included. Always include the somatic, but a little bit of everything, because that's how I am, and it's fun. So that will be the video for today. I hope this is a good recap. I'm going to definitely rewatch it before I post it. And let's see, today is, well, I'll just be better about it. And so I also want to plug myself and put in some information. So check out my Patreon. It will be in the description below. I already have some videos there talking about somatic healing, how you can bring in your own healing, how it relates to your body, because that's so important, and a little bit about some of the spells and how to undo them. and just some basic information about Sibyls healing. Okay, so check out my Patreon. We have different tiers, and I'm now sharing more information for all the tiers. So check it out. See what you're interested in. We do one-on-ones. I do have an Instagram. I don't really do this kind of stuff on there, but if you want to find me there, it's Amy Mon rather than Mon and me. And that's just a little play on words, like my friend, which just also happens to be my name. And I make a lot of jewelry, and I do a lot of like side art. So if you're ever interested in some of my jewelry, some of my art, hit me up. Alright, until next time, just gonna use my voice because the guitar's inside. So alright, until next time.